Hello and welcome back to the channel for another weekly catch-up. This week I think we've got about 11 movies to get through. Before I start, just let me say I had mentioned maybe doing a come with me for The Whale and Knock at the Cabin. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go see The Whale on Friday. I had booked and paid for it to see it in Belfast. Just long story short, things are pretty bad with the folks and their health at the moment, so Friday just was a mad day with doctors and all kinds of things. I did manage to get to see Knock at the Cabin on Saturday, but because I had a tiny window and things are a bit stressful, I just didn't really feel like doing a come with me on Saturday. So apologies for not doing that. I know I said I would, but I didn't. So let me get on with what I've watched this past week. So the first of the week was Tar. Now, this is a movie that has been hotly contested for Oscar fame. It's got Cate Blanchett, who's always fantastic. I will admit this is not a movie with the subject matter that I would generally go for, and was this not being mentioned a lot by other people, I probably wouldn't have watched. That sometimes can be a really good thing because you'll watch something that you otherwise wouldn't have given a chance and you'll love it. This follows Lydia Tarr, a famous female conductor. She's the first one to have reached particular points in career in the field, and she is set to conduct, I think it's a German orchestra. Yes, she is set to be the first ever female chief conductor of a major German orchestra, and it follows her life, her persona, the kind of person she is. I don't want to say anything about that other than she's not a very nice person, which does make this a little difficult to watch because you're not really rooting for anyone. I gave this a 3 out of 5. It was a very quality, well-made movie. The acting was fantastic. I found it really hard to get invested in it because I didn't have someone to root for. Even the characters that were good were not fully developed to me. Cate Blanchett was the main person we concentrated on, and she was just hideous as a person. At the beginning of this, there's also a really long interview which is full of all the sort of complex musical talk, and it will bore the arse off you, is the only way I can put it. If you can get through that first 15-20 minutes, it does pick up pace, but it never goes to a running speed. It puts Lydia Tarr in the position that we would usually see a male character playing. That's all I will say. While it was interesting to see it from that angle, the tables being turned a little bit, I thought it was well done, but it wouldn't be something I would ever watch again. It's not my kind of thing, but I appreciate it's very well done. So that's Tar. You see, I've got my Letterboxd here. On the following evening, now maybe I'm just a lady of simple taste, I went to the cinema to see Playing with Gerard Butler, Mike Coulter, among a lot of other people. So I didn't know exactly what happened in this. Obviously it's called Playing. I knew we were going to have a plane crash of sorts. Gerard Butler's the pilot. That was my knowledge going into it, and I won't tell you any more than that, just in case you haven't seen it. I love this. I'm not an action movie fan. I love movies like Die Hard, really big, awesome movies, but I wouldn't be an action fan. I do love Gerard Butler, so I thought I'm going to go give this a chance. I've heard very good reports from everyone I know that's seen this has really enjoyed it. And I think I'd go to saying that I enjoyed this more than most people I know that saw it, other than maybe Dan from The Upside Dan. I know he really liked it too. I know Jordan really enjoyed it from Movie Worm, but Jordan described it as what you would expect, a typical action flick, but it's really, really good, and he was really on side of the main character. He was really likable. I think that's what totally pulled me in. I loved the character that Gerard Butler plays. I loved his morals. I loved his just techno shit attitude about things. I just thought he was a great character, but for me it was elevated beyond a typical action movie because I wouldn't really be on board for your typical action movie. I'd say, yeah, well, it was okay, I enjoyed it. This was fabulous. I loved it because I felt we really got a window into our characters, our main characters' personas, and we really understood them. With regards to the other character that plays alongside Gerard Butler, we don't get too much of a background into him, but I like the fact that we don't know everything. We're left questioning this guy, is he good, is he bad, his morals, because we don't know his backstory, so I actually like that decision. So Playing, I would thoroughly recommend. I gave it a 4 out of 5. Next was a 2018 movie called Head Game. Now I'm a little bit torn about this because I love the premise of this, and I think I've maybe been a little bit cruel with the marking. I've given this a 2.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it, and for my own personal amusement, maybe it should be a little bit higher, but I know this is not a top quality movie. It just speaks to me in my, it's kind of like how much I love the Saw franchise, even though I know a lot of it isn't great, I still love it. And that's how I felt about this. There were aspects of it that were a little bit laughable, but I enjoyed it. So it says one key, one door, one survivor. Group of young people awake, locked inside a warehouse with cameras screwed into their heads. Yes, cameras. It becomes apparent they are unwilling competitors in a deadly game, and they need to murder each other if they hope to survive. So it's that old chestnut of these people that don't know one another all waking up in this place, and they have to play a game of sorts to get out, and only one person's going to survive, and this follows what happens. It's right up my street. I love that kind of thing. I thought it was well done. I thought it was well acted. Some characters were a little bit some of the acting by some characters wasn't quite as strong as others, but because it's right up my street, I enjoyed it. I give it a 2.5 out of 5. Personal enjoyment level, I maybe should have given it a 3 out of 5, but I don't want to artificially inflate it for you guys so that you watch it and go, what is this crap? This is just my kind of movie. I really liked it. So that's called Headspace, and it's a 2018 movie, and I think that one's on Prime at the moment. This is where I have to try not to rant and make this video longer than it needs to be. The next one I watched is one that's popped up on Netflix, quite new. It's a comedy and it's called You People. Now, I had no intention of watching this because I'm not a fan of Eddie Murphy in any way, shape or form. That might not be popular, but I'm just not an Eddie Murphy fan. It's got Jonah Hill in it also, Lauren London, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So, what convinced me to watch this is Aaron from Screen Stars reviewed it, and it made me really curious when I heard what he had to say about it. So what he said was it reminded him a lot of Meet the Parents with Ben Stiller, which I love. I think's brilliant. He said it's like that, but introducing the aspect of race into the mix. So I thought, right, let's see it. And Eddie Murphy played a pretty straight role, no laugh. So I thought this will be interesting because it's the whole jovial, laughing Eddie Murphy thing that I don't really get on with. But I thought, let's try this. So basically, Jonah Hill meets Eddie Murphy's daughter. Jonah is from a sort of like Christian family, and I can't remember the character name of Eddie Murphy's daughter. They're from a Muslim background, and it's made very clear from the off that the girl's parents, especially the father, are not going to be accepting of Jonah Hill for their daughter because he had other ideas, some of which are around race and some of which are around religion, and he does not want his daughter marrying a Christian white boy, basically. On the other hand, Jonah Hill's parents are just, David Duchovny plays the father, and it must be Julia Louis-Dreyfus? Oh, Jesus. Julia Louis-Dreyfus that plays the mother. And they're just bumbling, stupid. They're not educated enough to know that certain things that they're doing, exhibiting, saying are perhaps insensitive, racist. Just as one example, there stood, the mum is stood with her daughter, potential daughter-in-law at a counter of a beauty, a spa. Someone comes in, the person behind the counter makes them wait while she finishes a phone call. Someone comes in that's white and goes right behind the counter. Jonah Hill's mum is aghast, and she automatically assumes that that's happened because she's with someone of colour and the people behind the counter are racist, so they've made her wait. But in actual fact, and it was really obvious when it happened, I said that girl's obviously going to work there. The girl worked in the salon, so that's why she was just going straight through. So there's really cringy moments like where this woman's leaping to the defence and making assumptions that someone's been racist when they're not. The whole thing about being obsessed with her hair, just things that really very unintelligent people don't realise. And I mean, as you know, you learn every day, and maybe things you weren't perhaps aware of you learn, but these people have learned nothing. They know nothing. So we've got that on one side, and we've got Eddie Murphy's character who just, you're not marrying a white boy, you're not marrying someone that's not Muslim. And it's cringy from start to finish. It's not funny. I didn't laugh once. It's trying to like step around eggshells around the whole situation. It's quite in bad taste. I wouldn't like to see this either way round. I don't want to see a movie where white parents are telling their white child, you're not bringing a black boy home. I equally don't want to see it on the opposite side. You're not bringing a white boy home. I don't want to see racism on any side. I don't think it's funny. I'm not one of the woke brigade, as people like to put it. I don't like that word. I can laugh at things that perhaps are a bit irreverent, but it's just causes division, doesn't it? It's not funny. And then you get the stereotypical ending, like, you don't need me to tell you what it is, and it made me want to physically vomit. I just didn't enjoy it, and I didn't enjoy anything about it. I thought Jonah Hill's character was very endearing. I liked his character. But other than that, it wasn't clever. The jokes weren't funny. It fell completely flat for me. It's just trying to introduce this whole racism thing to try and get people on side. And I like to think most people at this stage are a bit beyond that. I want to see films that represent people without having to discuss what race they are, what colour they are. We're all people at the end of the day, unless it has some sort of historical point and we need to have that represented to educate us. I don't see the point for cheap laughs. It's in bad taste to me. So, as I thought I wouldn't like it, I didn't. I gave that 1 star out of 5. Okay, on the same evening, I watched Piggy. This is a Spanish movie, as far as I remember, starring Laura Galan. Adolescence can be brutal. A bullied, overweight teenager sees a glimpse of hope when her tormentors are brutally abducted by a mesmerising stranger. I enjoyed this. I give it a 3 out of 5. It is how it says. We get a view of this young teenage girl. She works in a butcher shop. They call her Piggy. She is overweight. We get to see how these teenage girls, and I've always said there's nothing quite as nasty as a teenage girl. I've been there. I wasn't a nasty teenage girl, but I was on the receiving end of some. And we see the just intolerable cruelty that this young girl suffers at the hand of these other teenage girls. And you have that really satisfying moment when they're getting their comeuppance. And this girl knows what's happened to them and they've disappeared, and she knows where they've gone, and she's not going to tell anyone. But not only does she know where they've gone, she kind of becomes obsessed with the person that took them. He has seen her, she has seen him. He knows that she knows that he's taken the girls, and they kind of become obsessed with one another. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's got some really good special effects in there when there are gore scenes. There aren't loads, but where they have them, they're good. It really worked for me. I really liked it. Gave it a 3 out of 5. Piggy, and that's a 2022 movie. Okay, where to go with this one, guys? I was actually going to watch this last night for a second time, and my husband talked me out of it. He said no. He said it was terrible. You haven't missed anything. Don't watch it again, because you'll end up really frustrated like you did first time. Skinamarink. So I don't think I need to tell people what this is about, just in case. This is a very new experimental type movie that's very different from anything that you will have seen before. The synopsis says 2 children wake up in the middle of the night to find their father is missing, and all the windows and doors in their home have vanished. Now, unless I missed something when I watched this, which is why, and you can let me know below, which is why I considered watching this again. Maybe I wasn't in the right mood. I wouldn't have realised that the windows and doors had disappeared unless I'd read that synopsis. There was never any big reveal, or did I miss that? Because you have shots that are like 5 minutes, 10 minutes long, and it's just focusing in the corner of a room. And I mean like the ceiling, the corner, and you see nothing other than this wall. And obviously your attention is going to drift. You're going to pick that phone up. Maybe I looked away and missed something. But the whole movie is shot showing weird angles of walls, ceilings. You'll see someone's feet walk past. You'll see old-fashioned cartoons playing on a television, which to me was the creepiest thing in the movie. Nothing else was scary. You hear garbled conversation very, very occasionally between these 2 children, and you can't pick all of it up. The audio is really difficult to hear. You hear, what I will say, and someone raised this, you do hear some just odd sound effects that you're trying to work out what's that noise, and that was quite, effective. And I will say that the sound design with regards to not being quite sure what you were hearing was effective. But on the flip side, you couldn't hear a word these kids were saying half the time, so if what they were saying was important to the story, I was missing loads of it. There is an image that someone put up on Facebook that was quite creepy, that was apparently taken from this film. I completely missed that scene. Again, the same person, I will put his name up on the bottom. I think it's Nolag something. I don't want to say his name wrong. It said that he's watching it desperately, wanting something to appear from this scene that he's been sat watching for all this time and nothing's happened. And he's looking at it and he's thinking, I thought at one point, and I will use his exact words, at one point I thought I saw a pair of titties just appearing. And he says, but maybe that was just my mind wanting to see something to make me interested. That made me laugh. So I think there is a scene where something kind of does materialise, but it's very quick and I missed it entirely. There's lots of crows outside. I've thrown outside leftover popcorn from the cinema and the birds like it. So in short, I didn't enjoy it. I was bored by it. I wasn't frightened by it. The one time I did jump is when something happened that was really loud. I had the volume turned way up because there's so little sound in this, and the audio I couldn't hear, so I had really loud audio. And then something loud happened and it was like, oh, that, you know, but it wasn't frightening, it was just loud. So I gave it a 1 out of 5. I really didn't think it worked on any level, but if you feel I missed something, tell me and I will give it another go. I will watch it again. So that's Skinamarink. Okay, this next one I'm not going to spend any time on because I do need to rewatch it because I wasn't fully focused when it was happening. All kinds of stuff was going off on our phone that day. It was not a good day. This stars Glenn Close and Mila Kunis. It's called 4 Good Days. A mother helps her daughter work through 4 crucial days of recovery from substance abuse. Now, I know this is going to be good. I know it's going to be a really engaging drama about if anybody's been through this. Personally, I've never experienced this, but I can tell immediately from what I saw that the performances in this are first rate. Her mother wants to help her daughter, but at the same time she knows that she can't allow certain things because it will just perpetuate the daughter's addiction and won't get her through it. So I know it's going to be good. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. It's come on Netflix recently and it does look like a really good drama if you want to watch something or you're prepared to sit through something that would be a bit slower. Okay, so that was on the Friday instead of The Whale. On the Saturday, I went to see Knock at the Cabin, which I should have done a full review for. Just as I say, it's been a bit of a bad weekend. So, story, everyone knows. The trailer's been on the TV forever. I'm not going to tell you the synopsis. I'm sure you're aware of it. I'm going to echo what every review that I've watched so far has said about this. Dave Bautista's performance is fantastic. He's the standout here. But I will also say that every single actor in this brings it. Everyone's good. The child actor's fantastic, which for me, I find myself getting quite irritated at child actors quite readily, but this little girl's fantastic. Her dads are brilliant. The 4 people that come into the cabin are all fantastic. I would have liked to have seen more of Rupert Grint. I can never remember the word Grint. I kind of half remember it and then I think, is that it? Or am I misremembering? People in America is interested and have said that they haven't seen him in anything else apart from Harry Potter. I think here in the UK, we've maybe seen him in a bit more than that. He was also, I'm sure, was he in Servant? That Shyamalan actually was involved with. So, you know, I have seen him in more stuff and he is a very good actor. And the little bit we got to see of him in this did show his potential, how good he actually is. What I will say is at the beginning of his acting performance, he did act a lot like Martin Freeman. He's probably best known for being in the UK Office. He plays the role that was taken by John Krasinski. I can't say it. John Krasinski, you know who I mean, the guy that directed A Quiet Place that was in the US Office. Martin Freeman played the British role. He's just a really good British actor, and Rupert Grint's performance in this at the start reminded me a lot of him. Very similar style. So what did I think of Knock at the Cabin? I've been ruminating over this all weekend, and watching other people's reviews has kind of helped me form a bit of a slightly different opinion than I had when I left the cinema. I have made no secret of the fact that I do love Shyamalan. I didn't enjoy The Happening. I have watched it numerous times to try and say, are you missing something, Lisa? You know, what is it? I enjoyed Old. I know most people didn't. I was happy with Old. It wasn't one of his best pieces of work, but I enjoyed it. Signs, for me, is probably still the favourite. I think it's absolutely incredible, and it just It's a masterclass in tension building. If anything with that, I would have liked to have seen a little less of the reveal near the end. I feel that the build up to the end of Signs was terrifying, and I didn't want to see quite so much as I did at the end. This one, again, I felt let down by the ending. The tension built in this from the start of the movie was brilliant. Acting was brilliant, cinematography was beautiful. Some of the way it was filmed and I'm not technically minded, I can't tell you what the shots are called, but I could tell by looking at it why they were doing certain shots and why it worked, and it looked stunning. Dave Bautista, I'm so impressed by. His performance was spot on. Such a big hulking brute of a man. That just means a big man in the UK. I hope it's not an insult anywhere else. But such a gentle, lovely character in this. Really conflicted as to what he's doing. Lovely, fantastic idea. Obviously, it's based on Paul Tremblay's novel, Cabin at the End of the World, is it called? The ending is different. I have since looked up how that ended. And for me, that would be even more frustrating than what we got on the movie. I had in my mind where I thought this was going. I was expecting the twist. We didn't get the twist. And I felt when I come out of the movie that it petered out, that it fizzled, like it died. And I wasn't really happy with that. Now, when I watched Unbreakable, which is one of my favourite movies, I wasn't happy with the ending. And I came out feeling really disappointed, thinking, but I wanted to see this and that. But when it ruminated with me, I realised that they ended it perfectly, and I appreciated that, and I realised that my initial viewpoint was completely incorrect, and I could appreciate it for what he did with it. And I was hoping that would happen with this, and I would come out and I would realise, what I have come to realise is the movie isn't about how it ended. The movie is about the journey to get there, the questions, the moral implications, are you going to sacrifice the best thing in your life for people that have never respected or appreciated you? You know, this same-sex couple have gone through so much shit in life from people, from homophobes. They've just not had an easy ride, and they're been expected to sacrifice the most beautiful thing in the world to them for people that don't matter. And it's that whole question. And it's the whole moral side of things from the point of view of the four people that come in also. So I kind of trying to look at it from the point of view, it's not about where we ended up. It's about how we got there. I was disappointed with the end, and I have to admit it. I'm maybe incorrect in that. I wanted the twist. I didn't get the twist. Maybe that was the twist. So yeah, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I did really enjoy it. I just couldn't get away from wanting that poignant gut punch of an end and not getting it. And that's maybe an unfair assessment, but I have to say how I felt watching it. I was on a stream this week. I was on a couple and they were both awesome. And somebody asked, what's your favourite ending to a movie? And I find it really difficult when someone asks you something to come up with something right away without giving it time to think. And I came to the conclusion that The Mist is my favourite ending to a movie. And I know a lot of people hate that ending, you know, massively hate it, and it ruined the movie for them. For me, it elevated a movie that was good but not great to, oh my god, that's brilliant. I love that. I want to leave a movie contented or with a strong gut punch with a, oh my god, I didn't see that coming. I want to end it with something, satisfied inside me, or something that's really going to be poignant. It's why I love the hope Anthony's watching Fever Dreamland Theatre. The Twilight Zone did this fantastically. They always left you with a question that you couldn't stop thinking about, or there was a little twist at the end of that story and the narrator came on and said his bit, and you would be left thinking, oh, and you would get chills thinking about this thing. And Shyamalan does that for me for the most part, and he didn't in this movie. He didn't leave me with that feeling. And in this movie also there are some inconsistencies that make no sense, that wouldn't happen. Really simple things like that you could do to avoid death, or, if someone's threatening your family, your child, your partner, and you've got a gun, are you going to shoot them? I'm going to shoot them. Simple as that. But, there's just so many decisions that are like, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I was disappointed by the ending, but I think, as I'm trying to say, maybe that's my bad. Maybe I shouldn't be disappointed by the ending, but that's where I'm standing on that one. knock at the cabin. It didn't blow me away, but I didn't dislike it. Okay, the next one, Dave Made a Maze. Now, I've had this recommended to me a lot. I think flicking through on an evening, I'm always flicking through Amazon Prime and Netflix. I think this is maybe on Prime, not 100%. So this Dave, an artist who has yet to complete anything significant in his career, builds a fort in his living room out of pure frustration, only to wind up trapped by the fantastical pitfalls, booby traps and critters of his own creation. Ignoring his warnings, his girlfriend Annie leads a band of oddball explorers on a rescue mission. I won't read any more of that. But basically, Dave does build a maze inside his own house, but everything is made of cardboard. And from the outside, it looks like 4 or 5 boxes, but on the inside, it's like the TARDIS. It's immense. It's like fantastically huge, and everything is made of cardboard. These people go in, and not all of these people are going to come out. Now, this is so creative and inventive. It's amazing. It's maybe a little bit too out there for my taste. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I do think it's incredibly well made. I do get that some people will absolutely love this, but it was just a little bit far out from my specific taste. But I would recommend it to people that like things that little bit different, a little bit edgy, just something that you have to not want to see realism. You have to want to see something different and inventive and just a little bit odd. That's what you have to want to see with this. So yeah, 3 out of 5. It's not something I would watch again. It's not something I love, but it's something I really did appreciate for how clever it was. So last night, finally, 2 movies. First of all, Viking Wolf. Vikingolven, I think this is Norwegian. Yes, all werewolves have a story. This is the Norwegian one. After witnessing a grotesque murder at a party in her new town, a teenager starts having strange visions and bizarre desires. So this is on Netflix at the moment. A pretty solid little horror movie. It's not going to be anything you haven't seen before. It's not going to be fantastic, but it's entertaining. It's not rubbish. There is a stage in this between, it's obviously about werewolves. There's a stage in this mid-transform that's fantastic that happens on a bus. And I love the special effects, but to me, when the full reveal, when the full werewolf was shown, it just didn't look good to me. But the sort of like transformation little snippets that we saw, I thought were really, really well done, which is a difficult thing to do. When are we going to beat American Werewolf in London's transformation scene? All these years later, and still we haven't topped that. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was straightforward. It was pretty much what you would expect. But yeah, it's a nice little movie. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 3 out of 5. It's not on a level with Dog Soldiers or American Werewolf in London. Not quite as good as Ginger Snaps, but you know, it's watchable. It's a good little movie. And finally, this is one that I watched based on a review that Paul Robinson from Magpie Movies did a couple of weeks ago. This is 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of the Benghazi. I hadn't even heard of this movie. He had watched it and put up on Facebook that he really enjoyed it, so I thought, right, I haven't heard of this. One thing put me off and one thing attracted me. What put me off is this is directed by Michael Bay. I'm not a fan of the kind of thing that Michael Bay does. I want substance, I want characters, I don't want explosions and car chases and bells and whistles. I want the story to emanate with me, you know what I mean? But John Krasinski, that word that I can't say is in it, that attracted me to it. So this is a true story which also attracted me. It was made in 2016 about something that happened in 2012 in Benghazi. When everything went wrong, 6 men had the courage to do what was right. An American ambassador is killed during an attack at a US compound in Libya as a security team struggle to make sense out of the chaos. A lot of people I've seen on IMDb are complaining about this being very political. I didn't really see that myself. I'm not going to talk about politics, you know, I'm not here to do that. This just basically follows what happened to these men. It's quite long, I think it was 2.5 hours long. And I was feeling about halfway through. Now, some of the shots in this are absolutely stunning. There's one specific shot of, I don't know the terminology, like a mortar or something coming down, and you see it from above. And it's so beautifully done. It's like, wow, I have to give Michael Bay his dues. He can make a thing look really impressive. What I was missing halfway through this was an empathy with, caring, connecting with the characters. And I thought that was going to be an issue for me. But it was actually quite cleverly done in that I was actually developing you know, feelings for these guys without even really realizing it. I thought I needed more backstory, more, you know, even like bromance, more about these guys' love for one another. But when we go through with them these 13 hours, and you know, everything they go through and everything that happens and how we end up at the end, you really feel for them. You really feel, you know, you standing alongside them and feeling what they do, and their anger and their frustration and their grief and all the different things that they feel. So yeah, I did get that feeling, that empathy that I wanted to feel, which I thought was going to be lacking. But by the time I finished it, I realized I felt all those feelings. Now, what this done, and I've said this every time I've spoken about a war movie, and I'm going to say it again in case there's anyone new out there, it really does get across to you the futility of war. You know, at the end, one guy says to someone from Benghazi that was helping them, you guys have got to sort out your country. And there's loads of I don't know what they're called, insurgents, I'm really sorry, I don't know the terminology, they're all lying dead. And I said to my husband, they really should show like a young boy of 11 or 12 lying there, because that happens. You know, they send in young kids with guns to do these things, to attack, you know, military. But we get to see the women come in to find their sons, their husbands, looking at all the bodies that are scattered around, and we see a young boy come in, standing above what's probably his father, and you get to see that even though maybe as you're watching the movie these are the bad guys, these are still people's fathers, brothers, sons, and that's still ruining and shattering lives for whatever reason. You know, politically, as I say, I'm not getting into that, but all these lives were lost, countless lives were lost, and for what? It really does put across to you the futility of war and people's lives being ruined. Just the human body is a very fragile thing, and you know, it shouldn't be going through war situations. There are very, very few situations where I feel war achieves much. I don't want to do away with, you know, military and all that stuff, but there's a lot more stuff that we could have military doing than just bombing places. It's a good movie, so I would recommend it. So 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi. That's a thumbs up from me. So that's it this week, guys. I have also started watching Vikings on Amazon Prime. There's 9 seasons. The reason I've started watching it is because there's a new show on Netflix also called Vikings something else. Can't remember what the surname or what the second name is, but it's a sequel to the original Vikings series, so I have to watch all of that first before I can watch the new one. So we've started watching that. What else can I tell you? There's I think, is it season 3 of You is coming out very soon. I've always been a fan of that series. It's we follow a serial killer called Joe. Looks really interesting, so I'll be tuning into that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to get to see The Whale tomorrow. Where I usually go to the cinema in Belfast, when we're in Belfast, has actually started to show it, so it's a lot safer for me to go to. There's parking right outside. The one I was going to, the issue is it's in a university area and there's very little parking. So as a female going on your own, you shouldn't have to think of these things, but you can't go if you can't guarantee you're going to get parked on that street if it's nighttime, if it's dark in a big city. I couldn't go and park a few streets away and walk because you're just not safe, just let's be honest. But in this other cinema, there's a car park right outside, so I feel okay going to that in the evening. So happy days. Hopefully tomorrow evening, all being well, I shall get to go see The Whale. I cannot wait. My mum's not very well at the minute. My dad's not very well at the minute. I'm going to see her first, so it's kind of going to be very dependent on whether I can get away. Finally, just a thank you to anyone that tuned into the 2 streams that I was part of this week. The 8 questions with Patrick on Wednesday, and the Did You See That with Mike and various other people on Thursday night. I had a great time on both streams. Really enjoyed them and should be popping up on a couple of more streams in the near future, guys. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Also, just to say finally, the voting for the Rubber Duckies Award has ended now. It ended yesterday. So the next date to keep in your diary is the 19th of February, when we'll basically be seeing all the winners, all the reveal. And there will be several YouTubers you will recognise reading the nominations and telling you who has won, myself being one of them. So I will be recording that this week when I find out who's won my little section. So I hope you guys will be able to tune in to the show on the 19th. I will obviously let you know before then exactly where that is. It's going to be on Lost on the Reels channel, but if you just keep an eye on my community wall post, I will have posted in good time where that is, when that is, to let you all know. So thank you so much for watching, folks. It's a longer one this week. I do apologise, just a lot to talk about. So I shall catch up with you guys next week for another weekly watch. Over and out from Lisa Lives.